morning. It's so nice to be here amongst you lovely people. Thank you for your warm welcome. And I love coming here because you can just feel the love in the room. It's great. Thank you. Just as I guess it's about a year and 4 or 5 months since my wife and I moved north to Port St. Lucie. And since we're in the political time of year, the last that I was here, and I recall, I was the only Republican in the whole center. Is there any others? Oh! Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What a dilemma.
We do have a dilemma this year, don't we? Well, onwards and upwards. I'm going to address the topic today. There are many mansions in my Father's house. I've received my information and resources from the Gospel According to Spiritism, the Spirit's Book, the Spiritist Review from 1858, After Death by Leon Dennis, and the Kepler Project, and also NASA, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. I'm literally shocked at how close the tie-in was with David's reading and the Way, the Truth, and the Life, and what we're going to be addressing here today. The Gospel reading at the beginning of chapter 3 is as follows. Let not your hearts be troubled. You believe in God, believe in me also. There are many mansions in my Father's house. If it were not so, would I have told you that? I am going to prepare a place for you, and after I have gone and prepared the place, I will return and take you with me, so that where I am, you may be also. I remember as a boy, probably 12, 13 years old, sitting in the congregation of my family's Methodist church and hearing the minister talk about this particular Bible verses. And I thought to myself, now I'm old enough to get a little mathematics going. You know, at the time maybe we had 250 million people in the United States. Who knows how many billions throughout the world. How many are going to die in a given year? Quite a few. So I'm thinking to myself, that's got to be some big house. A really big house to accommodate millions of people. This chapter of John 14 is a very important part of the New Testament to me. It represents a time, and the last time, that Jesus is going to be with his disciples as an incarnate person. He is addressing the disciples at the Last Supper when he is saying this, or immediately right after the Last Supper when he is saying this. And when the disciples heard that he was leaving, they began to feel depressed. They began to feel isolated if they were going to be without their leader, Jesus. And Jesus said to them, don't worry. I'm going to pray for my Father to send the Comforter, the Holy Spirit. He will make you strong. He will teach you everything you need to know. Of course, Jesus knew that within 48 hours he was going to die. How did he know that? Well, Jesus' statement, I am in my Father, and my Father is in me. Makes that fully comprehensible. There are a couple of instruments that come into play way after Jesus. The microscopes, which enabled us to see things very, very small. And the telescope, which enabled us to see things very, very far away. I remember being in the previous center on 125th Street, and our friend Louis Lima come to visit with us and gave a talk on spirits on other planets. I must admit that when I heard him talk, I thought maybe he had a little loose marble. But after studying and being mentored by some of the fabulous women that I've had in my life, like Andrea, like Susanna, like Abigail, and gentlemen such as our dear friend, Marcel, and other folks that I've learned from here in Spiritism. I've come to believe that that is so. This, of course, is our solar system. We can't do it in true relativity to distance. I don't know if you remember when when I was in school, we learned from the inside out, beginning with Mercury and then moving to Venus. It went like Mary's violet eyes make John stay up nights praying. Did anybody ever learn that? No? Okay. But that's our solar system. And Lewis suggested that there are spirits that are from Pluto, Saturn, Mars, Venus, Earth, of course, Jupiter. Spirits, book question number 55. Are all the globes that revolve in space inhabited? And the spirits answered, yes. And the people of the earth are far from being, as you suppose, the first in intelligence, goodness, and general development. There are many men having a high opinion of themselves who even imagine that your little globe, that is the earth, of all the countless myriads of globes around you, has the privilege of being inhabited by reasoning beings. They fancy that God has created the universe only for them. Does this look familiar to anybody? The Milky Way galaxy? You can see where our little point is at our sun and our solar system. Does anybody have some ideas how big this thing is? If you see from top to bottom or from left to right, it's approximately 100,000 light years across. This represents the number of suns close to us in this galaxy that have properties similar to our own sun. Approximately the same temperature, approximately the same gases, that have planets revolving around them. Well, within 4 light years of radius of us, we've identified 385 suns in the galaxy similar to our solar system. Now I'm going to go back up here for a second. Excuse me. if we are that little tiny part in the sun, it's 100,000 years, light years from across the galaxy. Then, with only 4 light years of us, we have found 380 potential solar systems. Then how many more can there be in the Milky Way galaxy? That was in 2009. They currently now, as of 2015, have counted over 1,200 in approximately the same area. That might be a sky that we might see on a clear summer night with no clouds. Anybody recognize the Big Dipper? And up on top, the Little Dipper. Please pay attention inside the Big Dipper. You're going to see it. It's going to be very quick. Thank you, Marcel. Watch what happens here. They're focusing in on an empty space. Yeah, please. You can close it there. This? Yeah, that's fine. We went through a very illegible place where there looked like there was nothing in the skies within the Big Dipper. Now keep in mind, this represents only a pinpoint of the whole eclipse, of the universe. Now, what we're seeing here was the last shot where it focused on that first blank area. Then you could see additional lights. Then they went to another area where there was no light and expanded and then wound up with this. Now, what we're seeing here are not stars. These are galaxies. Some equal to the Milky Way galaxy. Some greater than the Milky Way galaxy. Now keep in mind, that was only a little pinpoint of sky. Take into consideration the whole 360 degrees. The potential for other solar systems and other lives is just tremendous. God has peopled the globes of the universe with living beings, all of whom concur in working out the aims of His providence. To believe that the presence of living beings is confined to one point of the universe inhabited by us is to cast doubt on the wisdom of God, who has made nothing in vain and who must therefore have assigned to all other globes of the universe a destination more important than that of gratifying our own eyes with the spectacle of a starry night. Moreover, there is nothing in the position, the size, or physical constitution of the earth to warrant the supposition that it alone, of the countless myriads of globes disseminated throughout the infinity of space, has the privilege of being inhabited. That's from the Spirit's Book, chapter 3. Excuse me. The Gospel according to the Spirit, chapter 3. Question number 56 from the Spirit's Book. Is the physical constitution of all the globes the same? The spirits answer, no. They do not resemble one another. The physical constitution of the various worlds not being the same for all, does it follow that the beings who inhabit them have different organizations? Undoubtedly it does. Just as you in your world, fishes are organized for living in the water, and birds are organized for living in the air. Are the planets furthest from the sun stinted in light and heat, the sun only appearing to them of the size of one of the fixed stars? Do you suppose that there are no other sources of light and heat other than the sun? And do you count for nothing the action of electricity, which in certain worlds plays a very much more important part than in your earth? Besides, how do you know that the beings of those worlds see in the same manner as you do, and with the aid of organs such as yours? Go back here for a second. It calls to light and to us that there can be a lot of life species that are not like us, that are out there in those great horizons, but have the same purpose of being children of God and to glorify God. Susanna recommended that I take a look at this publication, which is called the Spiritist Review. Personally, I had never heard of it before, but it's a compilation of newsletters that were produced by Allan Kardec in the time period of 1858 for, I think, about 5 or 6 years. Is that right? I'm amazed after I got into it, the science that was passed through by the spirits to Allan Kardec. And keep in mind, this is 1858, and what we read was just from, let's say, the 1860s. How'd they know all that? Thank you, good spirits. The plurality of worlds. I think that you and I have probably asked this question before. Who has not wondered on considering the moon, other celestial bodies, if those globes, those planets are inhabited? Couldn't it be that it's comprised of unknown elements of such a low density that they do not produce appreciable refraction? Now understand that in these planets and solar systems and galaxies, we can only see them if there is a reflection or refraction of some kind of light. Okay, we say the same about water and liquid that may exist there. Water on Mars, perhaps we have life on Mars. As with respect to living beings, wouldn't that be a denial of the divine power to judge impossible? An organization different from what we know, when before our eyes the providence of nature extends with such an admirable solitude up to the smallest insect, and provides all beings with the appropriate organs for the ambient area where they live, be it in water or in land or submerged in darkness or exposed to sunlight. Had we never seen a fish, we could not have conceived beings living in water. We'd have no idea of their structure. Until recently, who would have believed that an animal could live indefinitely inside a rock? But not mentioning these extremes, could the beings that live under the fire of our torrid zone, that is, deep in the earth, under volcanoes, exist in the polar caps? Yet, in the ice zones, where there are beings organized to live in such a condition that could not withstand the scorching heat of a vertical sun. I don't know if any of you folks have seen some of the programs on TV recently, like Discovery, where they're finding abundant life under the North Pole, under the Arctic North Pole. Why then can one not admit that certain beings can be built in order to live in other globes and in a medium completely different from us? That's from the collection of Alan Kardec's newsletters. Anybody been to the Grand Canyon? Looks like the Grand Canyon, right? This is not the Grand Canyon. We've talked about things far away. Now we're going to talk about things that are really small. What you're looking at is a piece of steel. A flat piece of steel that has a crack in it, approximately 1 micron. A micron is 1/1000th of a millimeter. Now, the electron microscope that's been used now to be able to determine certain things was used here to look at that crack in a piece of steel. Incredible, isn't it? In a prior slide, we talked about the possibility of life inside of a rock. What we're looking here is a meteorite that was found on the South Pole and in the Allen Hills area of Antarctica that was believed to have originated from Mars. You'll see a structure right here that looks like a segmented worm. And it is. But what you're looking at is perhaps one of the smallest living things ever discovered inside a meteorite believed to have come from Mars. The electron microscope revealed that chain structures. This is, help me with this word, Halocephalus mephisto. This is a very small microscopic animal living approximately 3 miles below the surface of the earth with very little water, no air, and under tremendous pressure. Well, how can it live? I don't know, but it does. It was found by geology people looking for potential oil drill sites. So we have things really large, very far away, and we have things very small. If you take nothing else away from this little chat of mine, I'd like you to take this away. The spiritual world is composed of souls of all humans on this earth and other spheres, released from the corporal connections by the same way all the humans are animated by incarnated spirits. There is therefore solidarity between these two worlds. Human beings will have the same qualities and imperfections of the spirits to whom they are united. The spirits will be more or less good or bad, depending on the progress they have made during their corporal existence. These few words summarize the whole Spiritist doctrine. As the acts of human beings are the product of their free will, they retain the stamp of perfection or imperfection of the spirit that animates them. Okay, briefly, In the spirits book, starting with question 101, we're told there are different levels of spirits. We have imperfect spirits, we have good spirits, and we have pure spirits. I urge you, when you have the time, to read those questions, number 101 through 112 in the spirits book, and you'll gain a lot more insight of these different classes of spirits. Now they start out with the 10th class, and I don't want to get too far into this, except to briefly describe them that they are impure spirits. They're not good, they're bad. They want to create havoc and cause trouble amongst men. The next are frivolous spirits. They want to have fun. The next class, they believe they know more about science than they do. The 7th class is neutral spirits. They're in between. The 6th class are noisy and boisterous. And now we start getting to the good spirits. I hope we're here. Benevolent spirits, learned spirits, wise spirits, 2nd class spirits, and pure spirits. The most important is the 1st class. These are the pure spirits. This is the Jesus Club. They have only one level, and they have passed through all of the other above levels. Now, you say, Dyer, why are you talking about this? Well, I've tried to show you the potential that there are of spirits in other planets. And depending upon how we do in this class category, that's where we're going to go. And it goes back to the original reading that I gave you from John 1 to 3, that Jesus said, I am going to go and I'm going to prepare a place for you. Who knows where our place is going to be, but it's prepared for us. This is a great book, by the way, that I received from my friend David. And I also was told about this book by Susanna, so I want to give them credit for that. Chapter 33, Life in Space. According to certain religious doctrines, the earth is the center of the universe, and the skies are bent over our heads like a canopy. In accordance with the Spirit's teaching, modern science has shown the universe sprinkled with countless populated worlds, which send a mortal blow to the theories that we are the most important. As we grow, remember a little bit what we talked about here today. The next time you look up and you see the Milky Way, and you see an empty space in there, it's not an empty space. There's things that are beyond that, and beyond that, and beyond that. So keep looking up. One of the things I want to go back and talk a little bit about, in the beginning, when Jesus was talking about leaving, and he said that he would send the Holy Spirit, the Comforter, and he said that he would pray for his Father to give the disciples strength, confidence when they were weak. There was a event which is called Pentecost. Pentecost took place 50 days after the crucifixion of Jesus. Assuming Jesus was crucified on the Sabbath, Passover, which he was, assuming it was a Saturday. 7 weeks later would be 49 days. The next day, a Sunday, becomes the Pentecost, 50 days after. At the Pentecost, the disciples were gathered in the upper room, in the same area where the Last Supper was held. Many believers were in the area and were waiting for the disciples to come back out of the room. It is at this point that the Holy Spirit began his work here. As the disciples are leaving the upper room, there is a very high wind that comes into the area. And the disciples were from different parts, and the people that were there spoke in different languages. When the disciples came out and they started to speak, everyone was hearing the translation in their own language, be it Greek, Arabic, Aramaic, Italian, whatever that language was, the people that were there were understanding it. That is my understanding of tongues when they said the disciples came and were speaking in tongues. What they were doing was speaking what they found out. And 10 minutes ago they were scared. They didn't know what to do. But now they have courage. They're strong. They're confident. And they begin to tell the story, and that is how Christianity began to grow. I thank you for your time this morning. It's great being with you. I hope I didn't bore you with some of the science stuff. Thank you.